Hello, everyone. This is David Galata here. Welcome to the next installment of David Galata Book Dreamer. I'm the author of the Crucible Spirals trilogy with Crew of Ganges, Veil of Strife, and Painful Medicine. Also author of Clockmaker and Tales in the Age of Unity. I just wanted to make this particular installment not about any particular item that is discussed specifically in my books, but on the topic of technology. And one of the things about technology is that while we see it advancing all the time and we have felt the effects of technological progress, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But what really is the question for me is, can we live a simple life, a non-technological life, while still embedded in a technological situation? Now, to me, having technology and having a technology-obsessed culture are two different things. Currently, we have a technological culture, and that is spread worldwide. I mean, you see things like cell phones and laptops, tablets, computers being used all over the globe. And a lot of people are very concerned that we may be losing sight of a more natural existence. Can we have both? Is there a way in which we can? Now, I personally believe that we can do this, that we can have a high form of technology while at the same time not losing sight of our natural roots. And by that I mean living in a greener environment. And I'm not talking the political green thing, but I am talking about living in an environment that still contains forests and farmlands and trees and rivers and, being in touch with nature while also having technology as a way of doing business, as a way of communicating with one another, and as a way of improving our lives. One of the issues that I have with technology as it's being used today is that so much of it is geared toward two things. And both of these things are not necessarily good for the environment. One is warfare. Human beings seem to be obsessed with warfare. And when it comes to technology, warfare is ravenous and is always demanding greater and greater technologies in order to pursue the ability to kill or defend or attack. That seems like such a waste of potential. The stigma that is currently placed upon nuclear power mainly comes from nuclear power first being used as a weapon. Now, experimentally speaking, this is not true because nuclear power as a generator of electricity was invented first, although it was not publicized. What was publicized was the atomic bomb. And so many people feel that it went from being a weapon to being a power generator, but all of the horrific, and rightfully so, stigmas concerning nuclear weapons went to nuclear power plants. And they're not the same animal. Yes, there could be accidents. Yes, there are safer ways of doing it. However, those ways are considered expensive. Many of those expenses come from, I believe, a tremendous amount of regulation to prevent nuclear power from becoming nuclear weapons. This is one example, and there are many examples. Laser targeting, they're used in military, and their use in military was first, and then it went to civilian use. Right now, I use a laser pen to help me when I'm enjoying astronomy. I bring my telescope out and I've got my little laser pen going. But that technology was developed for the military first. We have to get out of that way of thinking of technology as just being another club to use to smack each other over the head. This is not good for our environment, and it's not good for us as human beings. The other thing that uses technology to excess is business. Now, I'm not anti-business. I think business drives a lot of good things as well as a lot of negative things, but there is a perception that technology is all about greed. Technology is about development. Technology is about discovery. We don't have to have one without the other. We need to find a balance between the commercial interests and the interests of living in a peaceful society. Now, I'm not living with my head in the sand and saying everyone is nice. This is not true. And yes, we do need to be able to defend ourselves. But what are we really defending ourselves from? This is a real question. To me, technology can enhance life even when it's being used in a very rural setting or even a non-technological setting. It can still be very useful and can enrich lives and bring people closer together. Social media is something that has, well, its positives and its negatives. I mean, let's face it. Not everyone you meet online is going to be pleasant. Not everyone you meet online is going to be kind, because that's the nature of people. But the ability to communicate with one another, I think, is a very positive step. We're able to communicate without the middleman. We're able to communicate without all the controls that were placed on communications from the very beginning. When we look at things like the telephone, the government was very deeply involved in the telephone, and it stagnated. It stagnated quite a bit. It became expensive as well. Later on, that developed into the communication devices we have today by putting it in private hands. But it's also left us open to each other in a way that can be abused. And human beings do abuse each other, which is a very sad thing. I think we need to grow up before we can really play with our toys. We have these wonderful devices and we use them for such ugly purposes. But I think for the most part, we don't. If you look at YouTube channels and you look at people on Twitter and on Instagram and on Facebook, and they're talking with each other, they're presenting their artwork, they're, talking about the things they like, they're, the whole thing of sharing kitten pictures. Just, cats. We're obsessed with cats, apparently. To me, that is a very positive use, and most of the social media use today is of a positive nature. Yeah, there are some bad actors. Yeah, there are some bad eggs, but that's not the majority. It doesn't matter what you see in the news, because they've got an agenda. They've got an axe to grind. They've got money to make. You put that aside, and you find that most people online are actually fairly pleasant. So when I was in the process of writing Ganges, this was something that was very much on my mind, although I didn't put it into the books as something that was an urgent thing to share. Instead, I decided to simply show how it could be. For example, within Ganges. There are levels that are filled with rainforests and jungles and savannas and temperate forests, and there are people living in those forests in the ways that their ancestors did. They are living natural lives, deeply embedded in nature, inside a spaceship. And here we have a marriage of a natural lifestyle, a nature-based lifestyle, with the technology in place to support it and to keep it healthy and growing. There are farmers who are based on the Mennonites, who till the soil. They grow crops for the crew. They live their life close to the land, such as it is. And if you were to visit them, you might forget that you were on a spaceship until a Nagadron comes by and asks if you're okay. There are little bits of the technology that are there, that are obvious, that are around, but they're not intrusive. And perhaps this is the thing that we have to learn about technology, is to remember it doesn't have to be intrusive. It can augment our lives and not intrude upon them. It can bring richness and closeness of communication without beating us over the head. We can develop technology responsibly rather than, well, what special interest wants this to happen so that these investors make all their money, or so that the military is able to destroy its enemies. This is a very different way of looking at things, although I am not alone. There are many, many science fiction authors who feel the same. There are many scientists and researchers who feel the same. The misuse of technology is terrible. The abuse of technology is devastating. But if we are responsible, and if we are truly trying to do our best to make our lives good and the lives of future generations good, we have to be aware and mindful of how we use the technology we have and how to develop it further with specific goals in mind that do not take away from the experiences of life and do not take away from the wonders of the world around us. Now, for me personally, I believe we should expand humanity beyond its nest egg. I just feel it makes sense. We have all of our eggs in one basket. And if anything goes wrong with that one basket, we're gone. And therefore, we won't learn anything, will we? But if we expand outward, we might appreciate more the beauty of nature on this wonderful planet we have. We might really begin to appreciate the diversity of life and its ability to adapt to environments. We might discover a part of ourselves that has been swallowed whole by the way we have treated technology as either a weapon or a mode of consumption. So we should be talking with one another. We should be working with one another. We should be expressing things to one another in a respectful and responsible manner. To do anything less is to actually be insulting not only to ourselves, but to the very technologies we have created to do these things. So this is a core issue for me, and maybe I will put this into a future science fiction novel. It's an important topic, and it's one that I think we really need to be looking at. We need to look at a variety of ways in which we can expand, learn, grow, and yet be responsible and compassionate. And maybe that's the key. Maybe we need more compassion. So the problem is not with the technology itself. The problem is, how do we use it? Are we using it responsibly? Are we using it with compassion? Or are we simply using it to cause chaos and disruption? This is the key to me. And I do believe it's an interesting topic, and I would love to do some writing about it. If you agree, please let me know. If you'd like to see what I come up with in terms of this topic, by all means. Right now, it sits in the background of Crew of Ganges, but it would be interesting to bring it to the forefront. So there's our thought for the week. I hope you have enjoyed this little installment of David Galata Book Dreamer. Please subscribe, and please feel free to, share this however you will. I won't mind. And there we go. YouTube, you heard me say that. I don't mind. So everything's all set for you. And yeah, I hope to hear from you soon. Please do comment. I really do appreciate that. In the meantime, have yourselves a wonderful week and try to use your technology responsibly. Take care.